Morning, friends. Back at it again. Just finished up this project and I'm starting to work on another project that I'm going to do on the CNC. Something to learn about making trays. I'm going to build one, or make one and engrave for my wife, see what she thinks. And then, yeah. But what this is about is this is the introduction to my new computer station that I built down here. I made this computer desk and I'll show you how I did it with no more than construction grade materials. Cost me probably about $35 worth of 2x8s and it came out extremely nice. It's great for down here in the shop because I don't need it to be really all that fancy. I just need it to be nice and sturdy and give me a nice area that I can work at the computer, do my editing, do my renderings for my CNC, and then have a comfortable place to hang out when I'm down here. So I needed this table. As you can see, it's got a couple knots in it, not perfect. There's some flaws, but you know what? In true fashion, it's not a problem down here. I think it looks good the way it is, and I'd like to show you how I built it. So come along, watch the video, let me know what you think, leave a comment, leave a like, and hopefully I'll start bringing you some more content about the stuff that I'm doing down here. I think it's pretty cool, and hopefully you enjoy it. Alright, so I started this project with a couple of different things in mind. One, I wanted to use my CNC to make templates, which you can see traced out there. And I cut them on the bandsaw and then just routed the template onto each leg blank. So the bandsaw got them close. And then I actually had to use a combination of bits. I had to use my little hand router with a straight bit and a top bearing so that I could get at least the template onto the leg. And then I had to break out this massive 2-inch long flush trim bit, which, oh my gosh, this thing was gnarly. After doing this on such large material, I actually did end up going and purchasing a compression bit, which will help with the ease of cut when I'm doing this thick of material, because I will not do this again. This was kind of nerve-wracking, a little scary. That bit was gnarly. And there was a couple spots where maybe I left the blank a little too large and had some extra little too much material on there, so it chipped it out real bad. After I got the legs routed out, I started to connect the stretchers to the uprights. Yes, these uprights are longer than the end table ended up being because I overjudged how tall I wanted the table to be. It was not comfortable sitting in the chair that I had, so I ended up cutting them shorter. But what you see me doing here is just countersinking with a Forstner bit, and then I ended up using some long 3-inch deck screws with some washers on the end to lock them in. I don't have a joiner or a floating tenon or any other doweling jig to joint them, so I just used the screws. But after I got done with that, you see me taking that belt sander to those areas that got really badly chipped when I was using the routers. So I ended up just belt sanding it out, knocking out the rough spot, and then smoothing it off with my random orbital. This ended up working out perfect. The templates or the leg feet are no longer identical, but that's fine because it's a shop desk, which is not a problem. After I did that, I did a nice 1/4-inch roundover and started working on the I guess, girder, if you want to say, that goes in between the two legs. Sanded it down, got most of the roughness off of it on my belt sander, and then I proceeded to cut it down to width, as well as trimming each of the 2x8s down that I'm going to end up gluing up for the tabletop. I ended up using, I think about 6, maybe 8 2x8s in total for this project. For the feet, the legs, the girder, and the tabletop. They were 10-foot long, and then I just squared them up, ran them through the joiner, the planer, and then, or the joiner, the table saw, and now I am cleaning each side up with the planer just to get it down to a uniform thickness. That way when I glue it up, I have as minimal fluctuations for the flatness of the tabletop. This was pretty easy. It didn't take too long since it's nothing more than pine. Pine runs through my planer pretty well, pretty easy. It is a straight blade planer, but it leaves a pretty nice surface. Although, as you can see, I just lost my dust chute, and that all those little strips of planer material went everywhere. So after I got them all planed up and good to go, I set up my, I guess, clamping area, which is how I'm going to go ahead and join these. That's me measuring the total width of the table and finding out that my parallel clamps aren't wide enough to glue it up. So I had to go with my pipe clamps, which in the end was probably the right choice to do. I could put 4 pipe clamps on one side, 3 on the other, and it left me with some really nice and even clamping pressure throughout the entire table. And yeah, right here I'm figuring out that I need one more on the bottom to hold that. I ended up having to split that center board because I didn't want to break out a brand new 2x8. I got a whole bunch of 2x8s, but I didn't want to have to cut one more full length, so I ended up using 2 offcuts, which is just fine. It worked, and it saved me some material. So, and it looks fine. You'll see later in the video I end up doing the sawdust and wood glue trick, and then it ended up filling in that little, there was a little gap that came out of the glue up, but it's no problem for me. I just filled it up with a little bit of sawdust and some wood glue, sanded it down. It's almost invisible, but you could definitely tell it's still there, and to be honest with you, I think it looks just fine. It was an easy solution, and not wasting material worked for me. So here I am just lining it back up exactly the way I wanted it. You can see all the, there's ended up being quite a few knots in the top, which personally I actually think give it a good little character aesthetic. Makes the table look a little different. So yeah, this is just me lining it up, trying to smooth out as much as I can, get them joints to match up perfectly, and then I wipe the glue off to just limit the amount of sanding that I actually ended up having to do on this, which, mind you, I did very little sanding on this because it's a shop table, and I expect it to constantly be dusty and or dirty. I didn't need it to be sanded down to 800 grit. I think I took it to 250 or 220, and that was about it. So here I am cutting it down to final dimensions. I don't have a track saw, so I ended up making this little L-shaped jig out of some leftover MDF. The only problem is my worm drive, my circular saw there, doesn't quite cut deep enough. So I ended up having to slide it over a little bit and run the table saw straight onto the desktop, which is perfectly fine. I learned my lesson on the second cut. I just set it up early that way so I would only make it in one pass instead of having to do two. Easy peasy, no issues. After I got done measuring that out, I just came up with my overall final depth of what I wanted it to be. And you saw me measuring from the center out because I'm going to just go ahead and nip off one side on a short cut, and then my table saw was wide enough to get the final dimensions. So I just ripped off the short edge first, got rid of that, made it easy, and then moved my fence over to what my final dimension was going to be, which I want to say I think it ended up being like 28 inches final dimension, final width 28, 26, something like that. Um, it ended up being nice, just right, perfect for having my monitors and having a good enough desk space for my mouse and keyboard. Really, that's the only thing I'm probably going to ever have on this is a mouse and keyboard, and then simple desk space. After I thought about it for a little while, I ended up deciding I wanted to chamfer the bottom of it just to give it another little accent. And here you see I basically did the same thing, set up my little jig slash track saw with my worm drive. I think I ended up using 20-degree angle, maybe something around there, 20, 30 degrees. It's not 45, it's much shallower than 45. And I just took one pass, cut a nice little chamfer down there at the on the what will be the bottom edge of the table, and that way it's not a sharp edge whenever I roll in with the chair. It's not gonna, like, dent, cut, do anything to the arms of the chair. I personally thought this looked nice, and I really liked the way it came out. You can see right there on the edge that big old knot. I actually like that knot. That knot is probably one of the favorite parts of this table. I did end up, I believe, when I was filling that gap, I did use some CA glue in some of the knots to stabilize them because I did notice they were a little loose, but ended up just filling them up, stabilizing them, making it nice and easy to finish up. What you see me doing here is I am setting up some, I don't know, I guess you want to call them a strong back maybe. I know a lot of people use C-channel when they do tables and or like epoxy pours and stuff like that to prevent the cupping or bowing of their tables. Here, again, keeping it in simple fashion that it is, as it is shop furniture, I ended up just finding some really nice offcuts that have minimal knots and or warps in the grain or twists. The grain on these were pretty straight, um, and figured they would help, I guess, minimize the amount of cupping this table will see over the seasons, or at least that is my hope. I am going to finish it and seal this table top, bottom, and all sides. So again, that's going to help out as well. But I added these two stretchers in hopes that it will help keep it more straight, if you will. I did make a completely separate video on me doing this, and I'm gonna pronounce it wrong. Shoshugiban type of accent, if you will call it that, or a finish where you do the burn with an acetylene torch or a propane torch, and give it this kind of two-tone look. Really liked it. It was my first time ever do it. At the end, I'll link that video if you want to check it out. I did it outside in my back porch because I wasn't going to do that inside. But go and check out that video. I'll link it at the end of this video so you can check it out. I'll also link the video of me doing the template mock-up in Carveco Maker that I used on the CNC to make the template for each of the leg and the table base top. So I'll show you those as well. Again, I'll link that video in the description at the end if you want to check out how I did that. But back to this, all I'm doing is putting a single coat. It's wipe on poly. I like to use a foam brush. I don't think it probably changes the outcome, at least not on shop furniture where you're only really doing, or at least I only did, one nice thick coat. Just made sure that I completely covered all the exposed wood. Wanted to make sure that it was nice and sealed in order to prevent, too much humidity and or moisture change. And that's all I'm doing is a quick, easy coat of poly, making sure that I'm covering the whole thing. I am keeping my brush strokes running along the grain just to make sure that it comes out nice and smooth. But as soon as this dries up and I just assembled the table, I put the top on the table, screwed it down with a couple more deck screws, and here's my finished product. This is what it ended up turning out to be. Nice work desk. As you can see, nice and simple, fits easy in my corner. Have my PC, my monitors, and my keyboard. If you like what you see, go ahead and click on the subscribe button and or check out these other videos I have linked. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.